And CNN can now project that Barack Obama, 47 years old, will become the president-elect of the United States. We project he now has enough electoral votes, more than 270, more than enough to become the 44th president of the United States. Right now, a historic moment. We can now project the winner of the presidential race. CNN projects Donald Trump wins the presidency. The business tycoon, a TV personality, capping his improbable political journey with an astounding upset victory. Donald J. Trump.
Spouses or our parents, right? Or your churches or your, whatever groups you're in. I don't know if people do Boy Scouts anymore or those kinds of things, but you're in clubs and you're in communities that influence your thinking, and we don't even realize sometimes that we're absorbing all of that.
One thing that I really definitely believe in firm in my heart is that everyone is equal. So human rights should be the same for everyone. And I'm just a firm believer in that. Okay. My personal liberal ideologies might be different from someone else who's a liberal. So I think that I think it just varies from person to person, how we each and every one of us has a different perspective on what we want out of life and what we think others should have out of life. And I think a lot of conservatives have a very opposing view compared to mine. Not necessarily wrong, but just opposing.
From an economic standpoint, I'm a firm believer in what, for example, Reagan did, which was trickle-down economics, and it is proven to work for our country. And so, just from an economic standpoint, I start off as conservative. I'm basically a constitutionalist.
I was adopted by an American family, so I have a lot of diversity in that way. One thing I learned was how my biological mother chose life instead of abortion, and for that reason I'm really thankful for my life, and I want other people to experience that same experience I've had. And there are only a few cases, extreme cases, where abortion is allowed, and that's only when the mother's life is in danger.
I think it's a very hotly debated issue, and I think it is in the Constitution. So in that respect, a lot of people do view it as a personal right. I find guns to be not a hobby, but they're something that is fun, and I think they can be dangerous. So I think there should be regulation. I don't think they should be taken away from the people, which I think that some people do believe in that. It's not I think it's a pretty centrist view. I think that there's space for guns and that they should be something we have, but they should be more controlled. A lot of friends I had, they were not economically as stable. Their families were not. A lot of them grew up in welfare, had family that had used welfare for a long time. So I think it's a very important part, and social economic assistance is very important.
Okay.
So I think that the experience, having friends that had to rely on that and families had to rely on that, I think that's really shaped me in that respect, because otherwise I really wouldn't have had that perspective and I wouldn't have seen a need for it.
I guess for this particular election, the whole thing to do with immigration is a big one for me.
Just a lot of immigration and refugees would be a major issue that we need to solve.
I think our national debt, that's pretty bad, and our intervention in foreign conflicts, and immigration, and basically stuff to do with intervention and debt.
Basic human rights like women's equality, the LGBTQ plus community, probably gun control, security, immigration, kind of like the general basis of viewpoints in our election.
I think this project has actually improved my political opinions or made my political opinions more affirmed because I don't know, I think it's so great to get to research so much more about like specific topics that we didn't really cover when we were younger.
Well, I think before I did this project, I wasn't really aware of the things that were happening politically, and also I probably didn't even really care that much.
At first I wasn't as political and I never really focused on what candidates have to say and what the propositions are and stuff like that, but this is just, it's made me focus more on who's going to be the next president and what my future is going to look like.
I didn't really have that big of a political standpoint or on the election or know that much about politics, so I feel like this project has just mainly opened my eyes to politics.
I also think this election is like so controversial that it was like great that we get to actually research into it and like get to know more about the candidates and about like their social issues and economic issues. I think that everyone's vote counts, and if you don't vote, then why are you an American citizen?
I want to vote for who I think would best suit my political opinions, and I don't want to leave my political opinions in somebody else's hands because I didn't vote. And I feel like I should vote also because I can feel like I did something and I was a part of a change in the world.
It's not just a little piece of paper on a ballot that says either Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. There's obviously that, but then there's also the props and positions that you have to vote for as well. So even if I don't want to vote for any of the candidates, I still have to vote for everything else.
I definitely think that it's a privilege and not everybody has the right to vote. And it's definitely a privilege and you have to earn it. And it should be considered a right rather than a privilege.
Voting is a right. I think people have the right, or citizens have the right to vote for who's going to lead their country.
I think voting is a privilege. I think that it's a privilege because so many people have died for the right to vote and have worked to get the way we are now with women being able to vote at different ages and stuff like that. I also think it's a privilege because, not a privilege, I think it's a right. No, I don't think it's a right.
We can increase voter turnout by basically making it like a holiday or something, or that way, because a lot of people don't have time to go and vote.
I think you could probably just increase voter turnout by just spreading the word to youth. Like in the beginning of the election process with the presidential nominations, a lot of youth was involved to get Bernie Sanders, have Bernie Sanders become our Democratic nominee. And because free college tuition, who doesn't want that, a free education for college. And then once Bernie lost that, a lot of youth was like, no, I'm just not going to vote at all because I don't like any of those candidates. Like spread the word about that there's more to it than just the presidential candidates.
I think to get the youth stronger in politics, we need to really push the fact that there are two sides, and if we are going to cover that in school, it shouldn't just be one side or the other.
I know that a lot of people in my class are more interested in voting now because they know about what's going on now. So I think basically just trying to get more awareness out about how they're in charge of their country's future, and it's their opportunity to take their country's future in their hands when they vote.
All right, any last thoughts?
No, I think that's it.
All right, cool.